Okay, so Metal Zone, one of the most divisive pedals ever made. So we all know it sounds like a box of rabid bees stock, but this EQ section is crazy powerful. So in theory, you should be able to get a good tone out of it almost any time, right? Well, enter Monte Allums. Yay, I'm doing another Monte Allums mod. There's all the parts. There's the Metal Zone. We'll do a before and after audio demo and see what it sounds like on the other side. Here we go. And as usual, the first thing you want to do is unpack the parts, make sure everything's there, and I believe it all is. Not going to show the proprietary segments of Monte Allums' website. You have to buy the kit to get access to the instructions, and that's only fair. That's his intellectual property. Looks like everything is there, so let's get started. Okay, let's see what rests inside here. Better tool for the job. There we go. This is just not that one either. This is a pedal that I bought on Craigslist a while back for about 30 bucks. So I always recommend you have some sort of little tray to put your parts in, obviously. Parts in, parts out. Don't lose track of them. Sometimes you want to have them in order like this so that when they come out you can put them back in order, and you'll see stuff like that. Like when you're putting diodes, clipping diodes in, that kind of thing, when you want to, if you ever wanted to put them back in the same orientation that they came out in. So top and bottom, well, this has got Velcro on it. It had it on it when I got it. Not all that important which is the top and which is the bottom, but don't lose that. That is your insulator. So when you put it all back together, that is metal. Those are all your contacts. You don't want shorts. Shorts are what we call in the business bad. Alright, let's see which PC board we have. Make sure everything's going to line up just fine. Oh yeah, look at that. So sometimes you want to... This one seems to be rotating out just like this. Sometimes you want to bring them down and out. Just kind of depends, you know. Make sure that pops out of the little lip there. And... looks like everything's going to be just fine and dandy. So... on the instructions, see what's first. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is replace C19, this little guy right here, and this is an electrolytic capacitor, meaning it has a polarity. So you'll notice has a little marking on this side. That's a minus sign. That means that is the negative side of the cap. That's the positive side of the cap. Do not orient them the wrong way. They will tend to not like that. Sometimes they will blow up. Not good. So this is C19. And what I will usually do is flip this bad boy over. They provide, Monte Allums provides you with solder braid. You can either use solder braid or the handy dandy desoldering tool. These things, you want to have them cleaned out pretty much every time you use them. So what happens is you cock this and you hit the button right here, and it sucks the solder up through this little nozzle right here. And what happens is if you get some residue in here, before you start, you hit the button and this residue will fall out all over your work, and it's a nightmare. So I generally go off to the side, fire it a couple of times, and then get it ready for whatever it is that I'm going to do. So C19 is right here. It's going to be these two contacts. I've done this a few million times, so I'm kind of good at finding where the contacts are on the flip side of the circuit board. So I've mentioned this in other videos before, but when you're soldering, this is a little counterintuitive. When you're desoldering, what you want to do is add a little bit of solder. Grab your desoldering tool, apply heat, let that heat soak in there so it gets everywhere you need it to go, and fire away. Notice we have a nice clean little hole over there now. See it? Fire the desoldering tool off to the side a little bit. Do the other side of this little cap. Now the reason we add solder, you're not really adding solder, you're adding flux so that the solder flows and melts more easily. And the heat goes where you need it to go. Alright, there you go. I'm going to grab the component by the other side, and you can see, you can wiggle it around, and when both of the leads wiggle like that, you're in pretty good shape. You can pull it out, and you should be good to go. So there is the 100 microfarad capacitor that we are going to be replacing with a 220 microfarad capacitor supplied by Monte Allums. And what we pay him for is to decide which parts need to be changed, for what purpose, and to what value. We're going to add a little bit of solder there. Now, of course, you're right up close to the component when you're soldering these leads back on, so you don't want to stay there very long. And it depends on what you're doing. You can leave these and then cut them all at once, or you can cut them every single time you replace a component. And there you go. New C19. So that's pretty much the process. The instructions will tell you where to replace what. Some of these components will have polarity. Some of them, like these film caps, will not. You can put them in either direction, won't affect anything. These are probably signal components. These will be diodes. They definitely have a positive side and a negative side. They're pretty clearly marked. And these LEDs, I'm sure we'll be using as clipping diodes or something like that, but they're also very clearly marked, and we'll go into that when we get there. So, off to the next section. So the next step is pretty critical. You really got to watch your orientation. Okay, so what we're going to do is replace these two op amps, these big chips here, these guys, with these adapter thingies that he's supplied. So these chips are going to replace these chips, but putting them in is a little bit tricky. So when you go to reinsert, you're not going to have a lot of room for it's this one here. So for this one, for the one in the back, we're going to have enough room. So what we've done is, this is the chip socket that was provided, and you'll notice there's only one row of pins here, that little pin thing. We have two on this one. So this one where we have two, this is going to go in, the front, And for this one, we're going to have to solder the chip directly onto this PC board. So normally what you do is you solder this adapter onto the PC board so you can replace the chip anytime you would need it. You know, you're still going to be able to replace it if need be with this bad boy, but orientation of the chips. So if we zoom in here, you can see these are the exact same chip, but they're oriented opposite of each other. You see this little dot right here? See how it's up on the top left? So we got the same thing. Should have the same thing here. Oh yeah, you just can't really see it. It's the top left here. But these are the same chip, but that top left, that's going to be your orientation. So that's always going to be, when you flip these guys around, there's a little notch right there. That's the top. So the top left is top left here. That top left here goes here. So what we're going to do is remove these linear chips, replace with these sockets and new chips. So it's pretty clear in the instructions, which once again I'm not going to show you because it's proprietary information that you're going to have to pay for. Not too bad. If you're good at soldering, not too bad. And here's a little indicator on the PC board itself, right here. That little circle right there, I've removed the IC from this side. That little pin right there is pin 1, IC 3, pin 1. And what I've done here, I just went and grabbed my meter and verified that that pin right there is indeed that pin right there, which is pin 1. Just a quickie way that you can check yourself there. And there it is with the new chips installed. You'll notice this one's a little taller because it's got a double row of okay, so the next one to be a bit careful with, what we're going to be doing is replacing this guy right here. And what is that? That's a polyester cap. And this is going to be, he's kind of responsible for a lot of that harshness you hear. And we're going to be replacing him with is this guy, which is a metal film capacitor. This is a 0.1 microfarad. And you can see, I don't know if this will be able to catch it or not. Maybe I can. It says 104J on that bad boy. I really do, I don't know if you can see this or not, because my eyes aren't good enough to see that, but these little magnifiers are great. You should get, you know, it's got the light on it. Fantastic. So the biggest thing to remember when you're doing this step is to leave some of the leads so that this is kind of bendable when it gets in there. Because what's going to happen is when you reinstall this, when you put it all back together, this guy's going to have to kind of bend over this way to clear this jack when you put it back together, and that cap right there is actually going to have to bend back in towards the center of the PC board. So most of the time, you know, you want them kind of right snug up against the PC board, but for this particular one, just due to the sizes of everything, you're going to want to leave a little extra lead on that. And there's what it looks like when it's installed. Okay, so the next step is we're going to be replacing D3 and D4, these bad boys, right here. Right next to this cap that we started with. And what we're going to be doing is making a whole harness assembly out of all of these parts here. We're going to be replacing them replacing this one set of diodes with 3 sets of diodes. We're going to make a wiring harness that's going to allow you to select between different clipping diodes, which is how you get different types of distortion sounds. Should make a pretty radical difference in what it sounds like. So I'm going to make that harness up and show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so I'm getting ready to wire up this wiring harness kind of scenario. And what we're doing is we're going to be paralleling all these diodes, which means kind of back to front. So a diode will have, focusing right? A diode will have a positive and a negative. So you see these little marks. So for our purposes, it really doesn't matter because they're all going to be paralleled. So the positive of this one is going to the negative of this one, and vice versa. Positive of this one to the negative of this one. So basically, you just kind of, you know, give them this little back-to-back thing. So for these, it's pretty easy. Not much to it, right? We'll just twist those and we'll solder those up, put some wire on, heat shrink it, yada yada yada. These, the same kind of thing. This is just a different type of diode, and you can see here they have a little, if that will focus, yeah, they have a little stripe. So what we're going to do with these is the exact same thing. Yep. Just put them back to front. Yada yada yada. That's how I will do that one. Now, these LEDs, an LED is a light emitting diode. This is a diode. How do you know what the polarity is? Yeah, it's not going to focus there, is it? Maybe a little bit. Okay, so you can see inside there, those are called flags. The one on the left is a little bit bigger than the one on the right. Yeah. I'll get a different phone one of these days and it'll be a little more easy to see. How's that? Yep, that's how you tell the difference between which is which. I'll let you look that up to see which one's which, but as long as they go in parallel, which means back to front like so, left to right, right to left, you'll be just fine. I'll show you what it looks like when it's over. And here is the harness. All done. Switches to select between the different diodes. Yay! Now I just hope it all fits in there correctly. So they've recommended either putting the switches here or up front somewhere. I think I'm going to put them up top here because it'll be easier when it's done. We'll find out if that's a bad idea or not in just a second. Okay, so I haven't actually put the harness in just yet. I'm gonna put in the rest of the small components and then move on. The next one is going to be this guy right here, which we're gonna replace with one of these little caps. This is a metal film cap. Ooh, sorry about that. It is this little guy right here, not polarized, so it doesn't matter which way you put it in. And then this one here, they say to just to remove it, it smooths out the mids, whatever that means. And they say try it both ways, so I'm just gonna lift one leg of it and leave it in. We'll try it, see what happens. Alright, so I've just went ahead and replaced the rest of the small caps, the individual components. Nothing terribly interesting, just a few capacitors here and there, yada yada yada. The next step is to put this little ceramic capacitor across the gain pot, which means that all this has to come off and we have to access that board in there, which I would normally be a little bummed out about, but I think what I'm going to do is put the switches up here, so that'll help give me access to that portion. And then I think that's about it. We'll button it up after that. And just so you know, sorry about that thing keeping, there we go. Just so you know, the these nuts that remove the pots here is an 11mm. There it is, little cap, all ready to go. Alright, now I'm going to drill some holes. Whee. Wish me luck. And that's what it looks like. Bumping the stand, sorry. That's what it looks like. The switch is in. Came out okay. And now we're going to take, this is all the stuff we have left over from the LED harness. So these just go into here where the diodes used to reside. There and there. Anyway, I'm going to tack those in and see what I can do about dressing all these wires and making it all work. And then we'll plug it in and see what it sounds like. Alrighty, all back together. Fired it up. It is, well, it's plugged in yet, but light is working. That's always a good sign. And that's not a good sign. Okay, so it didn't work the first time around because when I was putting it all together, I broke a couple of connections. So let me grab my little pointer. Let's see what's going on here. Sorry about the video, but yeah, here we go. So I added these two jumpers here and here that just go straight from the pin right over to the chip on that little board. Because when you're putting this together, he's not kidding, this is a very, very tight fit. And I managed to tear these contacts apart, I just kludged these jumpers on there. It's not, that doesn't look very good, but it works. Sound demo coming. Okay, this is the pre-audio demo. Here is the metal zone. You can see all the controls are straight up, and from here on out, I'm not going to change any of them. They're all just going to be straight up, regardless of the test that we're doing at the time. So, here's a clean channel, just going straight into the Katana. This is going into the front end preamp with just a little tiny bit of reverb on the Katana. Also, all the controls are straight up at noon, so I'm not really worried about the tone. What we're doing is tone comparison, so here we go. And that is just the bridge humbucker, which is Pearly Gates, and that's all we're going to be using for these tests. Now here is the metal zone going into the front end. And now, as people are wont to do with this pedal, what we're going to do is go into the effects return of the Katana, which I've just switched over. You probably heard that. Same everything. All we're doing now is bypassing the preamp of the Katana. And with the metal zone on. Okay, here's the post-mod audio demo. One thing to note, there is, on this 3-position switch here, there's one position that's quite a bit quieter than the other positions. So I'm going to, I'll demo it for you here real quick. That's quite a volume difference there, so I'm going to try to compensate just with the master volume on the katana. So we're going into the front end of the katana. I'll show you. We'll call this position 1A. And then 1B. Okay, now only in position 1 is this switch active. So in positions 2 and 3, this one's not going to be doing anything at all. So position 2. And position 3. Okay, here we are going into the effects return of the katana. Here is position 1A. Position 1B. Position 2. And once again, I'm going to compensate a little bit for that volume increase. And then position 3.